Every game starts the same way, with an idea. Sometimes that idea becomes a masterpiece. Sometimes it never gets any further than the whiteboard. Which brings me to Legendary. Now, let me tell you, if this game was as any good as its soundtrack, this would be a very different video. Now, this game, it does have a story. If the idea of a story is the beginning, middle, and end. Now, does it have a good story? Not for a lack of trying. The story is just very basic. You play as a character which is tracking another character, and that's kind of it. There's not a lot of meat to it. It is a very, unique genre, which has never been done before by any other gaming studio or movie. But forget the story for a minute. Imagine the elevator pitch. Pandora's box opens in New York City. You have griffins flying over the Empire State Building, golems kicking taxis around, tentacles coming up through the sewers. It's beautiful. And credit for this game, it's beautiful. The visuals are amazing for a 20-year-old game. But the problem is the story. That is what hinders it. Now, you are Deckard, a man of many few words. He doesn't speak. He's a silent protagonist. And it's quite hard to build a story on a character who doesn't speak. It's been done before by these games, but it does hinder the story, quite a bit. In 2008, we had great characters like Nico Bellic, Nathan Drake, Jimmy from Bully even. Like, they're all quite character-driven games, which I think if this guy could speak, we'd be in a better land. This really becomes a problem when he has no character arc. He has nothing to go for. He has no goal. He starts the film as a thief. In the middle of the game, he is a thief. And at the end of the game, you guessed it, he is a thief. And by the credits rolling, he's still a thief. He is just a thief. That is his persona. And it really doesn't touch on the fact that he used to be like military or something like that. He just is a thief. And that is very lackluster for a story, driven narrative game. He's just arrived, and granted, that's cool. Like, we're learning it together. It's been done before in, the Fallout franchises, but it doesn't feel that way. It just feels like, ooh, a new thing has happened. And during one of his thieving moments, he finds this. Pandora's box. And he opens Pandora's box and hell just breaks loose. People on fire, people falling over, stuff breaking. Whoa, spooky, cinematic for inside of a museum. And then we get to see it. Griffins flying over New York. We get to see one of the things that people were promised when buying this game. And after seeing all this destruction and chaos caused by Pandora's box, we go down into the subway system. Oh my god, it is disgusting. It is This is the normal subway, by the way. Oh, right. Put the real one on? About the same. It's not too different. This should be a scary part of the game. I've just seen griffins pick up cars. Now I'm in this close and dark environment. I should be scared. But then I also learned that I'm the Dragonborn. Okay. I learned that I'm the Dragonborn, but that takes away from the fear factor that I can, in my mind, pulverize any enemy that I can find. And talk about things that I could pulverize. We find this creature, the Fire Drake, and it's meant to be this fire, scary. It's a lizard. It's a lizard that's it's had a bit of a spicy curry. It's not that scary, but you start at the bottom and work your way up. Like, we started off with the least scary one, so anything and everything will get better from here. But the subway is when we start to see, like, some glimpses of brilliance. It's dark. It's claustrophobic. The lights are flickering. People are screaming and can't find where to go. It is good. And then we find this, a code lock. And for me, it should be like this when we find the code lock. But instead of my amazing acting skills, we get this. Just holding it, watching this little animation play out every time we open a lock. Now, I know Deckard's a good thief, but I also would be an amazing thief if all I had to do was knock the panel off just through telekinesis and just put two wires together. I'm pretty sure I could steal the Mona Lisa if I really wanted to, if that's all that it took. Speaking of like moving between areas, these events, and when I travel through event, my heart rate should be racing through the roof. I should be panicking that something should be around, like the corner, and the sounds, the creaks of the building travel through the vents. But when I'm in the vents, my heart rate's like this. It's slow, it's calm, because I know nothing's there. I know this is a safe place, even though it's meant to be quite scary. And the game, again, could have adapted on this. It could have made it so the vents were more of a maze, so there wasn't the correct way. And if you were worried, game, that people couldn't like find their way, then use this smoke effect that you used in the later mission to help guide the player. And have like monsters in the vent. Make it scary. Have it so when they go through the vent, they can find more collectibles if they decide to not stick to the obvious path, and that they can, break those fans off so they can go through and have a look some more. It was really like a missed opportunity, and it is something that you'll see a lot in this game. The reason it didn't like meet the goals of itself is because it just missed so many opportunities to have these moments. But the subway portion is a good part of the game. It is one of the higher moments of the game. It does show where the game can really shine. But going back to the story, you meet up with Vivian, and you learn that this man, LeFay, who is like the overall like baddie of the game, is using the Pandora's box to wreak havoc onto the world. And one thing that I didn't understand about LeFay is that he is using the monsters to like take control of the world. Now, from what I've seen, these monsters do not discriminate. They kill LeFay's men as much as they try to kill you, and I imagine they'd try and kill LeFay if they got the chance. So he's trying to make some technology to control the monsters. Maybe, just put it out there, I'm not an expert, maybe make the technology before you release all the monsters, because there's a high chance that you might die to the monsters. But after you finish talking to LeFay on this screen, which I don't really get how you're doing, because I don't see a webcam, and it's just a room that has got no connection to LeFay. But stories. This is when the game becomes an FPS, a first-person shooter, and oh boy, does it miss the mark. I mean, it's okay, like, yeah, you shoot to kill, you hit the enemy, they die, but what is this? This, ladies and gentlemen, is the HUD, the HUD, the heads-up display. It allows the player to get information without going into menus. It's information that is at the fingertips of the player. And good examples of HUDs are like Skyrim, because it's like a medieval theme. You have the map icon thing at the top, which helps the player, guide through to waypoints without picking up the map. Another good example of a HUD, also from Bethesda, is Fallout. I like this HUD because like it's green, and it links to the idea of like the 40s, the 50s, and radiation. It's also a good HUD. Also, there's some games that don't really have a HUD. Far Cry 2 had a really good HUD because it shows how away from society you are. You have to physically get things out. You don't have to go into a menu. You can pull them out on your player. But all these HUDs link to the theme of the game. But this one doesn't. It looks like a HUD out of Halo or a sci-fi shooter or Dead Space, not a HUD of a legendary game. You could have had a symbol in the middle to try and convey this. You, instead of this plasma thing that you have, use like a Zeus lightning bolt. You don't need it to look like this. And you know what else other first-person shooters do, which really helps the player understand and feel the idea of like agency and the fear for their lives. When you get hit, you can see it. When I get hit in this game, nothing happens. And there was a few times in this game, actually a lot of times when I died, I was quite annoyed because I didn't know why I died, why my health was getting low without looking in the bottom left. And because I keep having to look at the bottom left, it takes me out of the action, which is in the middle of the screen. Just put some red animation on when I get hurt, and the more I get hurt, the more red it is to symbolize blood. The bigger problem for me personally is it makes you feel like immortal, like nothing can hurt you, and then you die. And that is a terrible way to feel when you die, when you feel like you should have been fearless and invincible. But after that, back to the action. So after fighting dozens and 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 dozens of clones of the same enemy, you make your way back to the surface and you see this huge golem, which is tearing up New York City. Again, beautiful scene. Another great glimpse of how this game could be amazing. And to get rid of the golem, you decide to EMP blast it with these different little EMP deployers. And you fill them up using the Anubis energy. I hope I got that right. Anubis energy, and then they plan to detonate them all at once. I haven't really touched on this Anubis energy, but I'm sure you've seen throughout the clips that Deckard has this little symbol on his hand, and he can go this, and it's shiny, and he goes like this, and you can suck the soul, like the energy from the enemies. Basically, just think of it like you know that scene in Home Alone when Harry puts his hand on the doorknob. It's like that, but it doesn't smell as bad, and it has more abilities. And I'm pretty sure if Harry had this in Home Alone, Kevin McAllister wouldn't have stood a chance. But again, it could have been expanded. Like, you can heal yourself and you can do the blast. You could have, again, here's a link. You could have had it so the player has to use it as a torch. So it has to so they have to light their way through these mazes and the subway. That would make it more time dependent, and then there's a reason to have enemies inside of the vents as well. So if the player runs out of this energy, they can absorb it there. Also use the idea of using hand to touch. It would also create a lot of tension in the game, because then the player would be worried that the energy might run out and they'd be in total darkness. A bit like in Outlast with the camera and the batteries. It would really help create more tension, especially in these tighter and more claustrophobic scenes. During the kerfuffle with the golem, Deckard gets knocked underground, and you meet the echidna's tail. Not that one, this one. The echidna's tail. It's a bit like Medusa, but the bottom of the creature is also a snake with these tentacle things. I might have got that completely wrong. It's just how I see it. And we get this great scene. Cool. I'm going to say it again. We just need to build on it. We just need to build on this again. Because now I should be scared of this water. And I'm not scared of this water. This water is anything but scary. Because there is a lot of scenes and moments where you have to transverse through the water with these tentacles, with these tails, you could have had it so the player, when the player moves slowly, they are less likely to make the tails activate. So if they walk really slowly and they crouch down and the water ripples less, it is less likely for the tails to hit them and grab them, which again creates tension. But instead, maybe it will get you, maybe it won't. But as you continue through the sewers, you meet these. These are the Nari, and from my extensive research, these are not part of Greek mythology. Not all the creatures are part of Greek mythology. A lot of them are from mythology. For example, the golem is from Jewish folklore, but not all of them are from Greek mythology, and I don't know why. We already established in the main scene of the game that it's Zeus who has done this Pandora's box jar thing. So why not just find creatures that are from Greek mythology? You're not going to get sued, and if you do, I think we have bigger problems on our hands. We should have done that, and here's some quick fixes that I think we could have done. For the Nari, I give you the Harpy. For the Fire Drake, you get a Dracos. And for the easiest one, the Golem, we just switch to a Cyclops. I feel like a Cyclops is actually I think it's a lot scarier. I think it would have looked cooler as well. Then the Golem is kind of just like this. It's just like tarmac with electricity. That's not very mythological. That's just New York. Like, but having like a one-eyed cyclops walking around with a massive club, now that'd have been spooky. The Irish try to stop you from filling the EMP boxes, and after a lot of killing them and getting back, we then find the box again after having to defeat some werewolves. I'm not going to talk about the werewolves. They actually just really annoyed me this whole game. They are really glitchy, and their movement is so sporadic. And then when you knock them down, you have to take off the head, which is cool. But from my knowledge of like, I'm basing this off Wallace and Gromit, the were-rabbit. You need like a special type of bullet. I believe it's silver. You could have made it so the axe was the most powerful, and the axe is very powerful, but it could have been the most powerful towards the werewolf when you have to like chop off its head, because then it had a bit of variety, and it's a reason to use the axe, because most people are excited just to like use the guns. And then we find Pandora's box again in the back of a helicopter aeroplane thing, and we go to God's own country, the United Kingdom, where apparently the Golems had already been there before the box was opened in Birmingham. Quick little Birmingham joke. When we land in England, we go to a secret base where they study Pandora's box and Deckard's arm. This is all told to us through exposition and not through the game itself, like through cutscenes. And then we go to Norwich. Let's not look around London, make that look cool. Let's go to a random cathedral near Norwich. Now, if anything, the griffins and werewolves are going to add a bit of spice of life to Norwich. It's not the most exciting place I've ever heard of in a video game. And then disaster strikes. The helicopter goes down, unsurprisingly, with griffins flying around, and we have to make our way to the LaFay's lab by ourselves. And whilst looking around the cathedral, we see this. This is signposting. This like helps the player get around the map and learn things without like being explicitly told. And the reason that I bring this up is because we don't really see this a lot in the game. A lot of the time you just wander. You just wander around and hope you find it. But this is like really clear signposting, and it makes you look at it, because a car falls off the bridge and then the lights shine to where you should go. That's really cool. Signposting is really effective because it doesn't take you out of the game. It doesn't tell you where to go. I think the best piece of signposting I've seen in like a modern game is Mirror's Edge, where it uses the colours. So I was very happy to see this. I don't know why you haven't used it in the rest of the game. That's what I'm not happy about. It's not that I'm not happy, I'm just disappointed. And we push through the rest of the cathedral, and what I managed to, we get to Norwich itself. And this is another moment where the game shows its great potential. It shows how good it could have been. Literally, the thesis of this video, how good this game could have been, and why the game isn't legendary. You get this moment where you get a choice. If you either want to be guns blazing from the start and you shoot everyone and start fighting, or you can be sneaky and you can crouch and you can go all the way upstairs and like kind of pick which enemies you shoot first. And there's one moment, if you want to be like kind of sneaky and cause a ruckus, you can shoot the Minotaur out of its cage, and it will start fighting and doing damage to everybody. And then you can go up and start shooting. I mean, granted, you have to take out the Minotaur, but I think it's actually a werewolf. Take out the werewolf eventually, but that was always part of the equation. You're going to have to do that eventually. But it's cool to have these moments. Like, I don't know why we don't have them more in the game, especially in these parts. In the New York parts, I understand, because it's a lot more open space and it's like meant to be based off the streets. But this bit, like, it's tight. The buildings are close together. Like, we could have had more moments like this, and it's a fun part, an interactive part of the game. I really highly recommend this part of the game if you're going to just play one part of it. And then we meet the friendliest resident of Norwich, the Minotaur. And the Minotaur boss fight isn't very interesting. It's the same as every other boss fight in the game. You just hold down mouse 1 and just shoot it like as much as you can. But I feel like we could have added something here. Like, for example, in the story of the Minotaur that I read, Theseus goes into the maze, gets the Minotaur to run into a wall, and then the Minotaur's horn breaks off, and then Theseus uses that horn to then kill the Minotaur. Why we could have done something like this, especially for the first time meeting the Minotaur. We could have had it so it ran into the wall, then you run up to it, do a quick time event, you're jumping over it, trying to rip the horn off, and do that like 2 or 3 times, and then to get rid of the Minotaur. It would have felt like more like rewarding than just shooting it, which you've done to every other enemy. It's literally just how much can an enemy take before you kill it, not, oh, I wonder if I'll survive this fight. And for me personally, it's kind of sad because the Minotaur for me is the most famous Greek mythological creature, right? So it should have one of the better boss fights, but then you just see them everywhere afterwards. Like, where were you guys in New York? Like, are you a UK limited Pandora's box, like DLC? Like, you should have been there in New York, especially in the tunnels. That would have been terrifying. They could have had it so you were like in the subway system and you heard the Minotaur and you're like, oh, I'm not ready to take this on yet, and you're running and you hear it running behind you and you're like frantically trying to do the code locks and you're trying to get through the vents and you can just hear it chasing. Oh my god, like all these ideas. Then you make your way to the support team, which is already outside of the phase fair, and you'd think for this cathedral it would be this amazing scene, but no, again, it's just like this dark and like dingy place. I watched another review of this game whilst making this video, and I'll put like a link to it. He said like we should have had the light shine through the stained glass, but instead it's just this dark like cathedral that we've already been to. It shows that this place isn't important. And this is actually a moment in the game after you walk through the boring cathedral, where the concept actually does outshine the story. When I finished this game, I did think about this part of the game quite a lot, because it is cool and it is what Legendary is meant to be. You're on a tight bridge with LMGs, with unlimited ammo, with werewolves and griffins, like jumping at you. You're just holding down mouse 1 and you are just being absurdly violent, and it works. It really works in this game, and with heavy metal music blasting through your ears and an amazing soundtrack. And it just works. And I feel like if the game went more into this, it would have done very well. It is almost like, I don't want to say Doom-esque, but it is Doom-esque. It is this idea of this like absurdist game FPS shooter where everything is very quick. And it is just pulling itself into new ways. It is trying to be an FPS shooter with puzzle dynamics whilst being a little bit of a horror game, whilst trying to stay true to the original stories of Greek mythology. It is just too many chefs in a kitchen. And when you have too many chefs in a kitchen, all you create is a shitstorm. And we have a lot more moments like this where the game kind of goes more into this FPS shooter. And in my opinion, especially in like modern games, we have the problem of the first and second act being really strong, and then the third act like rushed, a little bit rushed. In Legendary, somehow they've made the first act quite boring, the second act really intriguing and interesting, and then the third act we'll get onto. Unfortunately, Legendary does still follow modern gaming trends a little bit. Done this by stepping away from trying to be too many things, like I said earlier. In these next moments, it stopped trying to be a horror game. It stopped with the puzzles. It just focused on being a first-person shooter and creating these amazing set pieces. And it just becomes an amazing FPS shooter. And looking at my notes, like, I haven't written much down because it just becomes a good FPS. You don't need an FPS to have loads of story and loads of lore. You just need an FPS to be a good first-person shooter. But as the story progresses, we find the phase hard drive, and who would guess, like the Greek story of the wooden horse with men inside, I can't remember the name, there is a Trojan virus on the hard drive, which somehow makes the lab explode, and we have to make our way to the top of the building. And you're on the top of the Houses of Parliament. Big Ben is burning in the background. You are using an RPG to shoot down griffins. I have never done this in any other game, and I don't think any other game will try to do this. That is crazy. That is so insane and so creative. Why is the rest of the game like this? And this is the game that should have been sold. This is what people wanted. There was no need to build up to this. We could have had this. It is quite sad that some people would have never seen this, because they would have given up the game, you know, before this 2/3 into it. And like, a lot of people, this is what they wanted. And then it's followed by this. A Kraken pulling down Big Ben. What an amazing set piece. And then you have to kill said Kraken by putting rockets in its mouth, by blowing its mouth up, by you shoot rocket launchers at it. And that's the best way I can say it. To kill it. A great, good boss fight. Different. Why are we not doing this more? As the game progresses, Vivian and the Pandora's box are stolen from you and taken back to New York. So then we go back to New York, and the rest of the game, unfortunately, just falls into just being very boring. Again, it just falls into shooting and walking a bit and shooting and walking a bit and shooting. It is very dull and mundane, especially after we've had this amazing bit in London, because it is the best city in the world. But there is this interesting bit at the end of the game where Deckard can seem to control the Griffin, and that's cool. You should have put it in the game. Why not? Like, you could have had a scene of Deckard on top of the Griffins going like this with his hand and like flying through New York. That'd be quite cool. That'd be quite funny. A bit absurd. I don't know why you were saving this for a sequel that never came. Like, we should have seen something with it. Now, is it a terrible game? No, far from it. It had great things going for it, but nothing has been executed enough to create a memorable game. All these parts are here for a great game. Just a shame they never came together.